Good afternoon, everyone. I have 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. My name is Jennifer Kincaid, and I am very fortunate to be part of the board for Missouri Rehabilitation Association. And MRA is excited to continue this series of Webinar Wednesdays, representing your favorite tracks from conference. Thank you to everyone who has attended the webinars this month and to all who have worked very hard to make them possible. We've been really enjoying hosting them so far, and we hope that you've all been enjoying attending. A couple items before we get started. Please keep yourself muted so we can hear our fantastic presenters. This session is being recorded and we will post it on our MRA YouTube channel, and I will share the link to that along with our other social media platforms in the chat box throughout the presentation. A huge thank you to board member Elizabeth Perkins for making our social media possible. And also thank you very much to those of you who have been sharing and liking. We really appreciate you helping us get the word out. Please use the chat box to enter your questions, and the ladies will be answering those along the way. The webinar today will be closed captioned, and a link has been provided in the chat box. In case you missed that link, I will be posting it again. We will provide information about how to request CEUs and the PowerPoint at the end of the presentation. But now I'm happy to present our speakers. Dawn Hesse is a seasoned educator who has over 31 years of experience in special education. She currently works as an MU pre-employment transition specialist. Dawn earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Missouri and master's from Lincoln University with an emphasis in administration. Amanda Webb Snell is a St. Louis native and has been an MU pre-employment transition specialist for 6 school years. She is certified in special education and has a Master of Arts in Education from Fontbonne University. I'll turn it over to you, ladies.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for attending today. So our presentation today is What's Up with MU Pre-ETs. So my name is Amanda Webb Snell, and this is Dawn Hesse.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet everybody through Zoom.
And we are part of the Pre-Employment Transition Specialist program for the University of Missouri, which is otherwise known as Mizzou. Okay, so sorry, let me find my, okay.
So we want to talk to you guys a little bit about the outcomes and why we exist. And ultimately, we all want better outcomes for students with disabilities and helping the students make an informed choice about their futures. And you guys, I think what's important here is the informed choice, really working with students on various careers that they might want to do, but also letting them know what it really takes to get to the outcomes of those careers. And I think it's a little bit of reality, showing them kind of the reality of some of the different choices that they would like to make about their jobs or careers, and really working through that with them. So that's why we exist.
Okay. All right, so a little background. Across Missouri, 37.1% of working age individuals with a disability are employed, compared to 80% of non-disabled work age individuals. So if we take a look at those numbers, 37% of work age individuals with a disability are employed. Okay, so that's a pretty low number, right? Compared to 80% of non-disabled work age. So what we want to do is give these kids a little more hope, some skills, to think about their futures, to think about, what's next for them, that maybe they can do more than they thought they originally could. Just because they have a diagnosis doesn't mean they can't work. So we try to introduce some, allow them to know themselves a little bit better, and also introduce some new jobs. Maybe the perfect job is out there for them and they just don't know it exists. So those are some of the things that we want to do for our students. If you guys have any questions along the way and you want to put it in the chat, feel free. I'm monitoring that. I might be a little bit slow, but you can go ahead and ask, and we'll stop and answer your questions too. Okay.
So I wanted to give you a little bit of background just about Missouri, but of course we all know it's very much nationwide, that there, and this is in relationship to skilled trade right now, but we know that there is a significant skilled trade shortage. I wanted you to be aware that Missouri does have 57 dedicated area career centers and 444 comprehensive high schools offering career and technical education programs. They have 16 different career clusters that are health science, ag, information technology, human service, education, manufacturing, science, and engineering. So when we look at that severe trade shortage, we are looking for all students, hopefully taking a second look at that area. In particular, students with disabilities, they have a lot to offer in terms of skilled trade. I have a friend actually who is in the skilled trade business, and he is a contractor. And what he shared with me was that some of his best workers are significantly older and will be leaving the skilled trade industry. And they are looking for, and actually pretty desperate for, young people to come up and look at that as an option for employment. And also it does pay extremely well. So I wanted to bring that to the forefront because it does seem like there's such a shortage, and I do feel like our students with disabilities would be a great asset in that area.
Okay. All right, so happening now. Perkins 5 places a greater emphasis on preparing members of special populations for high skill, high wage, and in-demand occupations, and stipulates funding to be spent on recruiting members of special populations to enroll in CTE. Local needs assessments on the part of area career centers to determine the regional economic demands. And ICAP, individual career and academic plan, supports earlier transition planning and aligning to the IEP to a student's career goals, which will be used to assist and guide placements in the CTE course. Okay, so you have to think about some of these kids and some of the prep that they need beforehand to be able to be put into these training programs and some of these jobs, and talks about, you know, the funding that is there, that's available for some of these kids. And so, like, as Dawn said, you know, a lot of these careers are in demand and a lot of people don't know about them. So it's great when we can bridge the gap between some of the jobs that are going to be available or available now and these kids before they get out of high school and they have no idea, you know, what they want to do, or they've maybe heard of some of the skilled trades, and maybe we can bridge that gap for them and talk about, you know, how this could benefit them and how this could be a lifelong career for them, and when maybe they, you know, weren't sure what they were going to do before.
So I wanted to talk about dispelling some myths actually about students with disabilities in terms of career and technical education programs. So we're going to unpack that a little bit and we're going to talk about that. So students with disabilities can't succeed in career and technical education programs. That is a total myth. Actually, there is an uptick, which I am hearing from surrounding school districts, that there are students with disabilities actually succeeding or enrolling and succeeding in those programs. So for that to be able to work, I think it's all about accommodations and modifications, and really working with the whole student, really reviewing that IEP. But the fact that they can't succeed in programs is certainly a myth, because they can, given the right supports. Career technical ed courses are hazardous. Students with disabilities can't be trusted in a safe environment. So clearly that is untrue. Sort of leading up to that, what I talked about in the first bullet is students can be successful in all kinds of different environments. Again, kind of going back to, it's got to be the correct supports in place for students. But that certainly is a big false statement. The third bullet, students with disabilities cannot pass the technical skills attainment or other end of the program evaluations. Yes, they can. First of all, it's about how we evaluate those students. And again, it goes back to, are we appropriately accommodating and giving the students the supports that they need to be able to pass those? And it may not always be pencil to paper or technology, or, you know, it could be, can they pass a certain technical skills attainment via hands-on? So that also is a non-truth. And then the last bullet is career technical education is an acceptable place to send any student anytime. It's not necessary to prepare or train the faculty prior to enrolling students with disabilities. That certainly is a non-truth. I think the more you know, the better equipped you are to work with students who do have disabilities. So anything that we can do to prep faculty up front is will only benefit the student in the long run. So.
Okay. All right, so here's a little data for you. Let me make sure I can see this. Sorry, moving everybody out of the way in the chat box. Okay, career education data, and you can find this on the DESE website. If you look at career ed on the left side, career education graduation rates in the state of Missouri from 17, 18, and 19, right? You can see how the numbers are, you know, bumping up a little bit there from 96.35% to 96.45 to 96.77. So it's a slow crawl there, but there is some, they are moving up. And then look at career education placement. So the placement rate for the state of Missouri goes from 96, it's kind of goes down a little bit and then goes up a little bit. So it's kind of staying steady there for career education placement. So if you're looking at the numbers that, you know, the students who are in career education, they graduate and then they're also finding jobs. So that's pretty steady. And the more that we, whoops, how'd that happen? The more that we do this, the more that we have our jobs and we are going in early and working with the students early, the better I think that these rates will be, right? Because then they have the courage, they have the confidence, and they know that they can move forward to that next tier, which is if it's career education for them, then they can graduate and they can also get a job. So, you know, that's why we hope to help with these numbers and to help increase these numbers too.
So here's what we know, but as I go through these, I think they're all improving. So here's what we know at one time with students with disabilities is that they were less likely to enroll in post-secondary school. Again, that is changing dramatically. That is definitely trending up. We're seeing a lot more students enroll in post-secondary schools as we're becoming more aware of the accommodations and supports needed. The second bullet is that they were less likely to be productively engaged in the community, which is true, but as students are receiving more employment in the community, they're much more productive, much more engaged, and they've got just a lot of natural supports around them. They're more included, but at one time, without supports for these individuals, they were less likely to be productively engaged. Young adults with disabilities were less likely to be living independently. I think as well that is trending up. We're seeing more and more students and young adults living independently with some supports, but not as many supports as you would think. And then the last bullet is that they were less likely to have a checking account or credit card. However, as employment is steadily trending up for students with disabilities, this too is changing. Students are actually getting those debit cards, having their own bank accounts. We would like to see all of these different topics even stretch much further as we go along with employment and getting students with disabilities employed. So, okay.
All right, here's more special education data. Okay, and you can also find this on the DESE website, as you can see above. So you have on the left side the IEP incident rate and percentage of total enrollment. For 17, it's 13%, 18, 13%, 19, 13. And you can see it's a slow crawl as well, and this is all in the state of Missouri, that the numbers are going up. And then if you take a look at the right-hand side, the IEP graduation rate, that the graduation rate is going up. And so that makes us really happy. From 17 to 19, we've gone from 73 to 76. So we would like to hope that we are part of that we are part of some of the hope that we give these students, and some of the hope that we give these students that, they can move on, they can graduate, they can move on to the next phase of their life, whether it be training program or work or college, whatever that looks like for them. And then here at the bottom, it says 61.5% of students at IP replaced employment, post-secondary education, or the military in 2018. Okay, so then this shows a little bit of a lower number. However, these kids are doing something, right? They're not graduating and then sitting on the couch or, not doing anything. So we want to make sure that they're a positive part of our community and can contribute and have some hope.
Awesome. Okay. So benefits of career technical education for students with disabilities. And you guys already know this, but it's nice to see the research that we know that it improves post-secondary participation, job placement, and graduation rates. It overall just increases their confidence in making choices, speaking up, solving problems, and setting goals. And then teaching career-ready practices, encouraging work-based learning, job shadowing, and internships to prepare students for real careers. So Career and Technical Ed, I think, does a great job at that. And I wanted to give you a little research that I found. It's from the, just talked to some research from the Massachusetts Department of Education. And here's what they found. And I'm sorry I don't have a slide on it, but I thought it was really good information. They found that students with disabilities who attended a career and technical education training program were nearly 70% more likely to graduate from high school in 4 years. So like here in the St. Charles County area, we have a tech school called Lewis and Clark, and St. Louis County has the same. Students who went to tech school during their high school years are more likely to graduate from high school than those peers who are in it more of a traditional high school setting, more of a 4-year. Those students enrolled in the 4-year were less likely to graduate, and meaning a traditional environment. So it was good to see some research supporting career and technical ed while students are attending tech schools while in high school, that their graduation rate is 70% higher. I thought that was great information. And that was from the Massachusetts Department of Education is where that research came from. So I thought that was really cool.
Okay. All right, so here's our goal. More coordinated services at an earlier age with meaningful opportunities for real world work experience and training relevant to business needs, leading to competitive and integrated employment. Okay, so we try to talk to the students about, reality, what's going to happen out in the world, what the work world looks like. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but the 5 areas that we talk about with the students that also vocational rehabilitation concentrates on as well. So we try to work with them in high school and give them some meaningful opportunities. We do things like job shadows in the springtime during a normal year, and talk to them about real work opportunities. Some of them do, work in the school, they do jobs in school. So we talk about, what's going to happen, what the work world looks like, outside of high school and how different it's going to be. So we give them some realistic views. and hopefully some opportunities too.
So here's what we do, the pre-employment transition service specialists, and how we deliver those services. So just to give you a little logistical recap, we've got 43 regional transition specialists currently. And we come at it from an educational approach. So we try to go in, we work with students, we teach students. We want to help teachers, we want to help schools, we want to just really get in there and do our thing, do what we're good at, and that's helping everyone. We want to help schools, but we don't want to hinder people. We just really want to individualize, and we want to do some things that are innovative. The biggest takeaway from this is we do not want to hinder schools. We don't want to be a burden to schools. That's not what we want to do. We want to help support what they're doing and then add to it if we can, which actually leads to the next bullet. We would never want to add to the educator workload. They're busy out there, especially right now. So we don't want to add to their workload. We just want to enhance their workload, actually. Although they are doing a great job, we want to just bring and enhance it even more. We are all about, and I love this, we are all about making friends. So we want to build relationships, and we are in the friend making business. I think you build relationships and people trust you as you go along with your schools. It just gets better and better every year. We certainly want results. That's what we're all about. So we are definitely results oriented, and we support, but we don't supplant IDEA. And so what that means is we support post-secondary transition and all the things that go along with it. However, we don't supersede those laws, or we don't replace the laws of IDEA. We are there just to support, not to try to go in and, take over. We are a support system to the teachers. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, we are not professional development. We are not, oh gosh, it's real touchy. Okay. We're not professional development, so our jobs are not to go in and teach the teachers about transition. All the schools that I work with, they have great transition programs. And, teachers can pick up lessons here and there from us and learn things as we go in and we speak in their classroom. However, we are not teaching teachers. We are not a program where educators must collect data, assess, etc. We don't give tests to the students. Educators are welcome to use the information that we have for their own data, if they would like to do that. We do collect data as far as students are concerned and what we do with them, and we give that information to DESE, but we don't take data on the students. Not something the district must pay to utilize. So we are a free service to our schools in Missouri. So it's not something that they have to pay out of pocket for. And there's not a lot of additional paperwork. So all we require right now is a permission form signed by a parent and the teacher, and that's pretty much it. And we can go in and we schedule with the teachers and find out what fits for them and where they are in transition. We look at, where are you guys at right now? Where can we help? Give you a little something extra to help you. And also we hear, it's great for someone else to come in and talk to the students about what I am telling them and how important it is to hear it from someone else. So, all right, moving on. Okay.
So what is required? So the type of candidate that we're looking for services. So the student must be currently enrolled in school. They must be between the ages of 16 and 21. However, students ages 14 and 15 can receive our services if it is specified in their IEP. Students must qualify for a mental, physical, or intellectual disability, and I do want to add into that a learning disability as well, and that a student may not already be receiving services from a VR counselor. So they can't have an open case with a VR counselor. So the goal for our team is to get transition services to students before they qualify for VR in order for the student to be fully ready when those services from VR are ready and they can have an open case. We try to get those ready, those students ready, and then have VR take over after that. So that is what is required for our services currently.
Okay. Great. All right, so what is required? So this is our permission form. So it tells you a little bit about who we are and what we do. And then the 5 different areas that we work on with the students: job exploration, work-based learning experiences, counseling for post-secondary education, workplace readiness, and then self-advocacy and peer mentoring. Those are the 5 areas we work on. So just basic information about the student: their name, address, phone number, race. Do they have an IEP? We have to make sure that they have to have an IEP or a 504. That's very important. We've also added email on there. It's so much easier to get a hold of, especially as we work virtually, to get a hold of the parent or the student. And then we have the signatures at the bottom. The parent has to sign and date, and then the teachers have to sign and date, and then get it back to us. And we have a digital version as well, so we can email it, they can fill it in digitally, and then send it back. So that's something new that we did this year. And that's basically it. That's all they have to do to get started with us. And we work through the schools and with the teachers first. And then we do talk to parents sometimes if parents have questions, or we have been setting up a little bit virtually with parents here and there too. But we go through the schools first. So this would be sent back to the teacher and to us.
So we wanted to share some stats with you. And for the 1920 school year, the number of services, so now I'm referencing the column off to the right, students served, we served 5,815 students. The schools that were visited, quite a few, 571. The contacts that we made, 22,854. And the best news of all, services provided, 47,358. And a second ago, Amanda referenced our columns. And so what you see here now on the pie graph are the different columns that we actually work on. So when you look at the breakdown of the services provided in 2019, 2020, work-based learning was at about 11.7%, drilling down to numbers, 5,548. Post-secondary counseling, which was a pretty good number, 6,717, or in percentages, looking at that pie chart, 14.2%. Job exploration, as you can see, was probably the biggest service that we gave, over 9,000 students, or 19.2%. Or no, I'm sorry, nope, it looks like actually self-advocacy was. So that's actually at 23.9%. And self-advocacy is a very interesting phenomenon for students in high school, that they really do struggle at that. So it is nice to see that that was the highest service that was delivered through our organization. Students always need help expressing their wants and needs. And so I'm glad that that is actually the highest service that we see on there, but it is a breakdown. And those are our columns that we work on, and in a couple slides later, you'll see the columns that we are required to work on, which match up with those. So, okay.
All right. So here's a little data for you from the 2018 to 2019 school year. As of 2019, since the beginning of the 2018-19 school year, 5,065 students have been served in 544 schools all across the state of Missouri. Altogether, there have been 21,818 contacts made, with 42,361 services provided. So lots of services provided within the past few years. Okay, so this was a tough winter in Missouri with many schools canceling. So the event was extended into March. Here are the results from the last 3 years. Now we're talking about the groundhog job shadow experiences that I mentioned earlier, that we do job shadowing experiences. So in 2017, groundhog job shadow experiences, 736 experiences for 723 students with disabilities. Okay, so getting them out of the school, getting them into businesses, so they can have a hands-on experience, talking to the people who work there to get a real world experience about what this job would be like, to feel it, to be there, super important. And in 2018, they experienced 2,241 experiences for 1,342 students with disabilities. In 2019, 2,823 experiences for 1,483 students with disabilities. So you see every year our number is growing, with the exception of this past year, but that's not going to hold us down. So as soon as we can, if it's possible, we're going to get back to our job shadowing experiences, so these kiddos can get out in the world and in their cities and towns where they live, and visit some different businesses to see if, you know, this is someplace that they could work, or it's not something that they wish to do, but at least they know either way. So that's part of the opportunity that we provide for them. Okay. All right.
Okay. And so earlier in the pie chart and the graph, I referenced the statistics on those, but here are our columns through WIOA, and it's just reviewing that. It's job exploration, work-based learning, post-secondary counseling, workplace readiness, and that self-advocacy and peer mentoring. Those are the 5 columns that we work extensively on with students in the high school setting. Yes, so, okay.
All right, what we do. Okay, so if we're looking in the middle, empowering students, that is our goal. That's what we want to do, to give them the knowledge, to give them the skills, to let them know that there is something else that they can do after high school, right? So around empowering students, you have collaboration with VR, right? So VR is an option for them after high school that can help them possibly find a job for them, a career for them, okay? And then you have different avenues, right? Again, these are the 5 areas. So we have job exploration, self-advocacy, what does that say? Student members of, post-secondary counseling, work-based learning, and workforce readiness. And those are all things that we do. So we have our pre-employment transition services down on the left, school year workflow. We have our pre-EDS core competencies, made to order transition support, relationship building, continuous improvements, and pre-VR data tracking. So made to order transition support, as I mentioned before, when we go to schools, we talk with the teachers about where we can help them, where we can help to fit in, like where they are. You know, if they're working on, post-secondary counseling and they want to talk about tech schools or whatever that looks like, we can jump in at that area. So whatever they need. So relationship building. This is my 6th year with the pre-EDS program. And a lot of my teachers that I have in St. Louis are the ones that I've worked with since the day one. So that's really exciting, and over the years, I've built a really good relationship with them. And with that relationship, I can help more students. And then continuous improvements. We're always looking at our data, our numbers. How can we make this better? What can we do? What else can we do for kids? What is this? How can we improve our program? And as you can see, our numbers have grown. So I think that's something that we're doing positively. And pre-VR data tracking. So that's something we do. The permission slips we turn in to do our data tracking. So DESE knows how many kids we're working with and what that looks like. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, okay, moving on.
And so what we do is we work with students back to our columns. I'll talk a little bit about job exploration and some of the tools that we use for that. So we use Missouri Connections. We use pictorial interest inventories, profiles. We use Ideas, which is a really cool, you can either use that as a paper product or that is online. We also use ONET, My Next Move, or a lot of other different job exploration programs that some of the local districts even have. So what we're trying to get there is what the student really cares about and what really their top career choice is. And it's very interesting. I think throughout the years, I've worked with a lot of students that want to work with animals and they want to be vets or vet techs. And that seems to be a really popular career choice for students, which is great. But then when you go through and you do a Missouri Connections or you do an interest profile or an Ideas or whatnot, and they go through and they ask, you know, there's a lot of questions, over 100 questions that these all ask of students to answer. And when they answer them and they get their results, sometimes it's not always the vet tech or the veterinarian that comes to the top of their list. It could be something that's very different. So what's cool about that is you really do get to start a really good conversation with the students saying, well, yeah, I know you really wanted vet tech, but wow, look at this. Something else came to the top. Let's talk about this. And maybe we can even take your love for animals and fit it into that top choice that appeared on Missouri Connections. So it's been an aha moment for some students when they really look at how they answered those questions. And I will say they're pretty truthful about answering them too. They're not, you know, blowing them off. I feel like, I do feel like they're pretty serious depending on the student. So that's part of what we do. And those are examples for that.
Good. All right, so part of job exploration is the Missouri Connections, and Dawn mentioned that. So there's lots of self-assessments that students can do. You can write a resume on there. There's different kind of inventories that you can do. There's a huge list of careers that are for the state of Missouri. So you could go through, pick out a career. I could tell you what the median income is, the high, the low, what the tasks are, what the job probability looks like in Missouri. Is this a growing field or is this something that's dwindling? So there's lots of different resources that you can tap into with Missouri Connections. And we can set up, we have a user, a lot of schools have their own user and passwords, but we also can set them up for them as well within the classroom if that's something that we need to do, if they want to go through and look at different jobs and see if it's something that they can connect with. So it's a really great resource.
So when we talk about work-based learning, here's some examples here. Amanda mentioned this earlier, some job shadowing. We do the groundhog event every winter time, February, March. We do informational interviews, opportunities within schools. If a club or organization runs a school store, or I've been in some high schools where they have coffee programs, or some schools are partnering with businesses in the community. So all of that kind of thing. Referrals to summer work programs. So what we want them to get out of that is we want to either hear what experiences they have had already, or what we can do to provide them with those experiences. Again, already knowing, you know, the research, that anything that they can do real life or hands-on is only going to further prepare them for life after high school. And they'll just be better at what they do, whatever they choose to do, careers wise or job wise. All these experiences will better prepare them for that ultimate outcome. So
yes, absolutely. All right, post-secondary counseling examples. So we can refer them to VR. We work closely with our VR counselors that are assigned to our schools. And so we can make referrals to VR on behalf of the student and the teachers. Referrals to other service providers. So we can also find out if maybe, you know, they want to get in touch with Easter Seals or the ARC or another agency or someone else that can help them that may have a different program that would fit. So that's a possibility. Help with applying and attending college. So we can talk to them. I've been on different websites of colleges, and I talk to kids about, this is what you do. This is how you apply. Let's take a look at the financials. How much does it cost? Do you need financial aid? What is it like to actually go to college? Will you live on campus? Will you live at home? Will you have a job? So all of these different things that I can help, we can help kids with, so they get an idea of, while they're still in high school and they haven't really, if they haven't looked into college, or maybe they have, what's really important to know. So something, campus tours, appointments, Office of Disability Supports too. So all those things are really important to know, and to know where to find them on the website. So that's something that I have done as well. Military. So the military could be a possibility for them. So that's something that we can look into. Understanding differences between high school and college as far as accommodations are concerned, right? That's huge. I mean, there are a lot of differences between high school and college anyway. So that's something that we talk about, a realistic view. But then you have accommodations on top of that and what that looks like. And so that's really important to discuss those things. And what you want to know is where they see themselves going, right? So I always ask their opinion, how do you feel? What do you see? What's next for them? What does your future look like? Sometimes, 5 years, 10 years down the road, what does this look like for you? What do you want? What sounds good to you? What kind of life would you like to live? So we try to match those as much as we can, right? As far as what they see, what vision they have for themselves, or maybe they don't even have a vision, and we're challenging them to start thinking about what's next for you, because your future's coming. What do you want that to look like? If you could shape that, how would you do that? So those are some of the things that we work with the students.
So work readiness, how are we getting them ready? What are we doing with them to show them, here's the best way to get a job and keep a job, right? So you can get a job, but you got to keep the job too. So there is a college and career readiness wheel that has all kinds of different sort of internal skills that students can work on, like soft skills, and then sort of external, like communication, organizing themselves. There's a whole bunch, and it's a college and career readiness wheel, and it's divided up into 3 domains. It's really cool, but it's got a lot of skills that we can take from that and work with the student on. We also have a curriculum called Next Up, which actually I believe there's a slide later on or shortly about that, which is just a scope and sequence of an order of curriculum, which is really nice. We practice interviewing and resumes, working on resumes, and then just dressing for success, and talking a lot about hygiene and what does it mean to, be clean when you're going to an interview or to work, and what does that look like? Interviewing practice, I want to go back to that for a second. Students, I will tell you, they really, you give them a question, and it takes them a while to really process that question. So the more we can not only work on the question itself, but really for them to come up with a really good solid answer for that question, and not be kind of caught off guard. So we do a lot of practice on interviewing. It's just hard for them in the moment to always come up with an answer. So we try to give them a toolbox of answers for the different questions. And so what we want to know is sort of where are those challenging areas for the students going through all those, and what we can work on with them.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Where am I? Okay. All right, extra bonus. Next up, so it's a curriculum that we have purchased through Mizzou, and it's really awesome. It was created by someone who used to be in vocational rehabilitation, and someone who was a former teacher who helps with the lessons. So we'll have a lesson, we'll have a short video that talks about that talks about the lesson that we are working on. It could be interviews, it could be going to college, it could be, you know, the reality of work, going into work, all those important things, being on time, having integrity, you know, what to say in an interview, how to handle after an interview, you know, a thank you card. There's all kinds of lessons. It's really, really cool. And I do use the videos, not the entire video, but maybe an excerpt of it, to help show the kids, you know, that someone else is talking about this too. And it gives them a visual, something else to listen to hear, that's helps solidify that, you know, some of these things that we're talking about are really important for you to know. So that is a really cool addition that we have.
So self-advocacy, this, I will tell you, this is the hardest skill for kids, in my opinion, to do. So we have a bunch of different curriculum for that. We have the I Determine curriculum that we can access. We teach students how to lead their IEPs through that curriculum. There's charting the life course, which is out of UMKC. We talk about understanding when and what to disclose to an employer. And if you want to do that, if you have a disability, we also work with students in terms of receiving accommodations in college, and kind of back to what Amanda said a few slides earlier, how the accommodations are very, very different in college versus what the student has on their IEP in high school. But the biggest challenge, once you get students to be able to identify those things, it's actually getting them to advocate and using those words and saying that. That seems to be a real challenge for students. So we really try to provide them a lot of a practice on just how do you self-advocate? What are the words do you use, and how do you do that? So that to me is the hardest skill for kids to master.
Good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So remember, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination, Jimmy Dean. So I think it's really important, you know, when I talk to the kids, you know, and in the beginning of the year when I meet them and I say, you know what, my job here is not to tell you what to do or where to go. My job is to facilitate what is possible for you. You know, what is the how? What is the possibility? Where can you go next? And so I always make sure that they don't see me as someone who is, you know, pointing my finger at them. So I just want to give them all the possibilities within all the 5 areas that we work in to see, you know, what they could do. And it's really interesting when they, you know, Dawn was talking about this earlier, when they say, oh, I want to have this particular job. I want to be a video game designer. Okay, well, do you know what goes into that? And so maybe they look into and they thought, oh, you know, I don't know if I want to be a coder. It's not something I want to do every day. And what does that job look like for you? So maybe they want to work with computers, but it's something else, right? So I think it's really important to show them that they have options, that they have something else that they can do. And it might not be exactly what they thought it would be, but maybe they can move and morph into something else and change to a different type of career, and maybe it would fit them better, you know? So we always look at all the options for them and facilitate that future, that moving forward for them.
And then last but not least, first of all, I'm looking at the chat box and there are a couple of questions, but if you guys have further questions, our supervisor is Bob Simpson. He's our director. As you can see in that PowerPoint, there is his phone number and his email address. If you have any specific questions more about what we do, perhaps he could answer those for you, or I know he could answer those for you. Couple questions. Where can we find the career and competence or career and college wheel? And I actually, you guys, here's what I did. I have my phone nearby and I typed in college and career competency framework and it came right up. And so you'll be able to see it that way.
Right. I just typed it into researchcollaboration.org, CCC framework. all those things are coming up for us, and it's through KU. So I typed that in as well, but that's a place where you can find it.
And yeah, and they actually have a interactive wheel too. I think you have to search for it a little bit, but when you click on one of the skills like perseverance, it actually populates up the definition of that and where you can find lesson plans. I have referred that wheel to teachers and all kinds of different individuals, and they seem to thoroughly enjoy that.
Yeah. Looking at the chat. All right. Is there anyone else? I haven't had any questions. I don't see anything else in here.
No.
All right. Okay. Should we turn it back over to Jennifer?
Yep.
Thank you both so much. And I think that sounds like a really cool resource too, the researchcollaboration.org. So I did put that in the chat box. So if anyone wants to save that, it's there for you. If there aren't any final questions, I think you two just covered everything. You did a great job. Thank you so much for sharing all that information with us. I found it really helpful, and just personally, I have been able to collaborate with the Pre-ETS team several times over the years, and you all are just the best, and I love collaborating with you guys. And so I appreciate you all sharing some time with us today to help us learn a little bit more.
Absolutely.
If you would like,
Jennifer.
thanks. If you would like CEUs, all you have to do is email mrastatechapter@gmail.com. And I just put that in the chat box as well. So if you would like CEUs, or if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, I will get that out to you. I've been waiting a few days just to let all those requests come in, and then I will get an email out to you with those pieces of information. So don't forget, we have one more webinar coming up. It's next week, Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Same link will get you there next week as got you here today. And we will be learning more about disability support in college and how that setting might look different from high school, and a whole bunch of other things that will be really helpful for us from Missouri Association on Higher Education and Disability. So thank you all so much for spending some of your afternoon with us. We are so appreciative to all of you who have been making Webinar Wednesdays a success. We are so appreciative to our speakers, and once again, of course, to the board and everyone who's made these possible. So thank you all, and have a great afternoon.